Okay, and then bass?
Here.
Advanced and beginner?
Yes.
Is everybody here?
Yes.
Are you sitting in your cabins? Okay. So we're kind of getting started late because we're behind schedule. But I wanted to introduce my friend Julien Baker, who's going to help me with panel today, and she's going to perform after lunch and be our band performer. Do Q&A. So, all right, Julien, stand up. You're not. Okay. All right. So I told Julien about how we talked about our superpowers this morning. So Julien, if you had any superpower, what superpower would you want?
I want power to teleport.
The power to teleport. I heard a couple of those this morning. What is your normal thing that you can do, which is your superpower?
It's between. I feel like I have the ease of making people cry.
I was
And
teasing
bumming them out to the point of.
I was teasing her.
Yeah,
How
you're
about that
teasing
earlier?
me.
I said your superpower is you can make people cry.
I can. Maybe
With your music.
My superpower is
Running really fast. That's it. All right. Well, we were talking about power, superpowers, what things you have. What are other things y'all think of when I say the word power?
Corruption?
Corruption?
Beyonce.
Beyonce. I definitely think of Beyonce. Yeah.
Authority.
What?
Authority.
Authority. Anybody else? What do you think of when you think of power?
Your parents.
Your parents. The government.
Money.
Money.
Power of attorney.
Power of attorney. Does anyone know what that is? She does. She's gonna tell you.
Oh, you want me to say what it means?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, you make legal or medical decisions for somebody.
You can make legal or medical decisions for somebody. All right, right over here.
Fire of my anger burning down everything.
Can you say that again louder so everyone can hear?
The fire of my anger burning everything.
That is power. The fire of my anger burning everything. Sarah Mandy, what do you think of when you think of power?
I think of someone going, whoa.
Yeah, that's like what supervillains do. They're like, super people. Control. Woman. Being able to have control.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
No.
Democracy. Our democracy. Money. Royalty. All right. So I feel like we've got a lot of ideas about what power is, and you all are familiar with it, right? You come up with power. You meet up with power in your life, right? We live under a government, which is authority. We have parents who have authority and power and control over us. Oftentimes that's in the form of money, right? Like if my parents don't give me money, then I can't do things I want to do or buy things I want to buy. Power, someone also said corruption, right? So sometimes I think that we talk about power and we think negative things, right? Because most of the time when we think about power, it's about an abuse or corruption of power. But power itself is not inherently bad and it's not inherently good. Power is a tool. It's what you make it. So somebody who has the power to do bad also has the power to do good. And someone who has the power to do good can also have the power to do bad. It's just, we tend to see more often in the world people doing bad things with power than doing good, right? Or that's when we pay attention. So we were talking about superheroes this morning. Every supervillain that was ever out there, they have superpowers too, right? They could easily have been a superhero, but instead they chose to use their powers for bad reasons, and then that made them villains. But the superheroes we have out there, they could have also easily become villains, and lots of them sometimes are tempted to do bad things with their powers, but they choose to use them for good. So yesterday we did our privilege walk exercise, and some of you noticed that some of you were way further ahead, some of you were in the middle, and you recognized, oh, I have powers. I have more money, I have more connections, I have more resources than other people, and it's uncomfortable to think about that because we associate power with evil. However, that doesn't have to be it. Power can be directed at something specifically. So now we're going to do a little exercise where we are going to pair up. So find someone next to you, find a pair. Julien and I are going to do this too up here, okay? Everybody stand up. Yes. Can you find a little space? If you don't have a partner, raise your hand. All right, look, there's somebody right there. You two could be partners. Does anybody else not have a partner? It has to be two people. Two people. You don't have a partner? Raise your hand high if you do not have a partner. All right. She needs a partner.
I don't have to have one, but I can have
Do you mind coming down here to partner with her? And then Ryan needs a partner. And there's over there, back there, Ryan. Okay. So Julien and I are going to do this exercise first. So do you want me to start?
I can start just because I'm not as comfortable with it, so it might be good to see somebody who's not as comfortable with it too, and that's okay.
All right. So I'm going to ask my partner for 60 seconds, for 1 minute, who are your people? And then she's going to answer, and I'm just going to keep saying, who are your people? Who are your people? And she's just going to say the first thing that comes to her head for 60 seconds. Okay, so I'm going to set a timer. It can be however you want to interpret that. We're going to do it in front of you first, and then you're going to do it together, okay? 60 seconds, all right? And project.
Okay.
Who are your people?
My people are my family.
Who are your people?
My people are musicians I've mentored.
Who are your people?
My people are other women I've played with.
Who are your people?
My people are the queer community.
Who are your people?
My people are big churches.
Who are your people?
My people are most churches.
Who are your people?
My people are Southern people.
Who are your people?
People are
Who are your people?
my people are people who struggle with HIV.
Who are your people?
My people are people who have lost their lives.
Who are your people?
My people are people that are lost.
Who are your people?
My people are people from Appalachia.
Who are your people?
My people are
Okay. Yes.
Oh whoa, that wasn't as hard as I thought it was gonna be.
Okay.
Started getting
My turn?
Yeah, your turn.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Who are your people?
The family of God.
Who are your people?
Taiwanese American.
Who are your people?
People who love art.
Who are your people?
Women of color.
Who are your people?
Those united in the struggle.
Who are your people?
Presbyterians.
Who are your people?
The Asian American community.
Who are your people?
The queer community.
Who are your people?
People who want to see a better world.
Who are your people?
Lovers of food.
Who are your people?
Lovers of books.
Who are your people?
Singer-songwriters.
Who are your people?
Okay, cool. There's a timer. So now you're going to each take a turn, 1 minute each, and you're going to just keep asking the person in front of you, who are your people? All right? It's only 60 seconds. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, go. We had a lot of answers. I'm sure, like a lot of them were similar to me and Julian's, like Rock Camp family. These are some of my people, or like Southern people, your locality or your family. We were talking about things we thought of we should have said after we did it. Mine was, I should have said Copeland fans or Paramore.
I should have said the Tegan and Sarah fandom.
Tegan and Sarah fandom, yeah. There's lots of, this is another example of what we were talking about on Monday, which are the communities that we belong to. And so a lot of times we think of power as being, people in authority, people who are above everyone else. But power rests mostly in the people. People in authority only have power because people give it to them. All right? The power always comes back to you as a person and communities having them. And we have the ability and the influence and the power within our communities that we belong to use that power and harness it, right? So, like my church that I belong to, I can go in and I say, what if we do this service project where we make sure every school in East Nashville has enough school supplies for the year, right? If I suggest that, it makes so much more sense, and I'm much more likely to get it done than somebody who doesn't belong to my church being like, you should all do this thing, right? If you, a member of your school or your community, says, hey, what if we all did this together? That's power. You have power inside of you. You have skills, you have talents, you have potential, you have ability. And not only that, some of your greatest power is in being able to bring people together, to work together. So, what did we say this morning? Teamwork? So that's what's called collective power, right? And it's through collective power that we can change the systems that are out there. So, who here likes physics?
You got too much inertia.
It's okay. So here I have an equation from physics for what is power. Power is work over time. So if any of you want more power, what do you got to do? Work on it over time. It takes time, right? Right now, most of you are under 18, which means you have limited power in the legal system. But it will not always be this way. And one day, you will have legal rights. You will have more power. And the older you get, the more resources that you have. When you get jobs and you have money, you will have power. And you also have power right now exactly where you are. So, power, what are some of the things in the world we would like to see change? Somebody have a quick example. World hunger. So, does anyone know why we have world hunger?
Because we have a crazy large population and we don't distribute food well.
But it's not because we don't have the food, right?
Yeah, we have food.
We have the food, but it doesn't get to people. Okay. Why there's world hunger?
Because rich people like have the ability to solve world hunger. Don't.
Okay. Does anybody else have any ideas why we have world hunger? Yeah?
Because people will think about the issue and then they will just decide that it's too much work and that they think that they're not capable of doing it, so they just stop doing it at all.
Yeah. Anybody else? Any reasons why people go hungry?
Some people can't afford it.
Yeah, some people can't afford food. So, we're going to look now at here. This is the theory of change. How do we take a problem and change it, right? We were talking about power, work over time. So, this model I got from my friends who are in this thing called Momentum, which is in Boston. They're called a movement incubator. So they help design social movements for change and for good. So they taught me this triangle, which if you're also into physics, is a symbol for change. Yeah, I know, I'm such a nerd. So up here at the top we have reforming individual change or individual growth. So, an example of an individual one is somebody is hungry. They cannot afford food. You give them food, right? But that doesn't change the millions of people all over the world who are hungry, right? Because the problem isn't just if I get this one person food, then world hunger ends. It's because there's systems in place that withhold food because they profit off of that. And so in order to do that, we have to reform institutions. So how do we hold accountability to a system that is inherently designed so that some people don't ever get enough? Well, we have to reform the institution. We have to change the way that corporations and scarcity and capitalism function in our society, where where it's profitable for them for people to starve, right? And that is like example through legislation, right? But we also, that's not enough, right? That kind of stuff takes time. You're like, well, a congressperson, a senator's, their term is 6 years long. I only get to vote them in and out every 6 years. And there's all this stuff with like a party, political parties, and like, what if I can't vote? Or what if we can't get enough people to vote because too many people have been banned from voting for racist reasons, or all these other things. So we're like, okay, well that'll take a really long time to change. So we have to create alternate institutions. So who here knows what like a food bank is? Yeah. So that's an example of an alternate institution. You can go get food at a store, or you get food where you have to pay for it, or you can get food for free somewhere. So that's a way that they have created systems, so it's more than just like, I buy my friend lunch because she's hungry. There's a place you can get stuff. Or like, we were talking about other institutions, a lot of public schools offer free lunches if you don't have enough money. That's another example of a way that's like creating alternate possibilities of ways of paying and having food. All right, let's do another one. So women who play, or not having a lot of, mostly the biggest performers and artists being men, right? Has any of you ever seen, sometimes people take a festival flyer that lists all the artists they're playing, and then they take out all the men, and it's just like 3 bands. It's like 3 bands. And you realize, wow, this festival is 95% men, right? So that's like Bonnaroo, that's Coachella, that's Lollapalooza, that's like the biggest festivals out there. So we can say, Lollapalooza, you need to have more women being playing, right? That's like the institution that exists. Or we could say, we could create our own music festival where we prioritize women, right? That's creating an alternate institution. And then we have individual growth. So I'm gonna play more shows because I'm a woman, or I'm gonna go to more shows from a woman. So you can see how these things are connected to each other. There's lines. So as you grow or support an individual artist, you could help them get booked by a festival that prioritizes women. Or you could support them to the point that they get to one of the big festivals or something like that. But we all have different spheres of influence. We all have different communities. We all have different gifts. Sometimes, like, in order to be the person that makes it does all the booking and talent buying for a big festival like Bonnaroo, you have to work in the industry for many, many years and build a career and have to the point where you get to make those decisions. That's a really long investment, and not everybody is designed or like best suited to go into a career in the music industry to make those changes. Maybe like you're like me and you know how to throw a live show. And get a PA and book a venue, and then I could start my own regular festival as women. Maybe that's something more my speed. Or maybe you're like, I'm not good at organizing events, but I can go and attend events, and I can give my money to artists that are women that can then get to the point where they are part of these other things that are changing. So all of our problems, the problems are not just one issue. There are always a bunch of them. And sometimes it can feel so overwhelming, like, how do we fix world hunger? And we have to understand that nobody does anything alone. Change is work over time. Nothing is instant. And we have a part to play in it as ourselves, as the gifts and the talents and the spheres of influence that we have in ourselves. And that, what, teamwork?
Makes the dream work.
So, maybe Julien has been working on her music,
Yeah.
and then people were supporting her.
Yeah, a lot of people supported me.
Yeah.
So many. I did almost nothing, but I did nothing by myself. I'll say that. That's true.
And you played a lot of alternate,
So many alternate institutions.
so many alternate shows, little
Yeah.
shows, lineups, and then this summer you're playing
Some institutions that need some reformation, but they're getting there.
like
Like-
some of the ones we didn't. You're playing Lala's.
I'm not playing all, I'm playing Pitchfork, or I just played So Interesting. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I don't want to
And project.
you know, trying to keep the mic. So I recently just got back from a festival, and it was a festival that is supposed, or at least it's marketed as like an alternate institution, and it is where instead of doing a regular set, it's almost like this, but for adults. And musicians that are booked on that festival come and they collaborate with each other. And I noticed when I got there, I gravitated towards the women because there were only 3 others. And there was only 1 woman of color. And I remember one of the women saying to me like, am I the only black person here? And I thought, wow, you are. And we're like the only women, like there's so many men here, and then like the only 3 women that were there at that time. That all just like convened together. But I think it's important to recognize, you and I were talking about this, to recognize then like those 3 women, what power and influence they have. And just because they are marginalized in this instance where there are 3 of us and 30 men performing the festival, we still have just as much talent, just as much worth, and just as much value, and we should not be discouraged by the circumstance of making demands of the things we need and saying outright to the people like running the festival, did you notice that there are so few women here? That's something that like you should feel empowered to bring up, that now I think once you find yourself within an institution that needs reforming, like that's the jump that's so important, is actually doing the reforming. Like not just reaching that point and saying like, now I am successful, so I have broken into the system that was off limits for me, and that in and of itself is the portrayal of success for a marginalized community, for a queer person, for a woman of color. But then there's like a second step to say, I have to actually bring change to the faces of the people I'm encountering.
Like you have seen how much further you have to go, but you also have seen how far you've come
Yeah.
and who you can bring with you.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
And how all the people who've been there to help you. So nobody can do everything, right? Problems are big, but also you are not powerless. You have the ability to do so much, and even more when you work together. And it's okay to like that you can't do everything. I'm the kind of person who's most likely to try and do everything. And growing up, maturing, and self-care has realizing I'm good at this, I'm not good at this. I only have so much time, I only have so much money, but this is the way I can use it so that it'll be for the best good. So most people only do maybe 1 or 2 of these things. They're never gonna like do all of them. And part of growing and doing art and activism is figuring out what you're good at and how it can contribute to a lot of people doing stuff together, and keeping communication clear and open, and recognizing Julien can go talk to a lot of people that I can't, and that's okay. It's okay that she belongs to different communities that I do, because we're a team. We wouldn't be a team if we were all the same person.
Exactly. And
Right? What kind of band would it be if it was all guitars?
That's so cool.
it would be, this will destroy you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we are going to break for lunch now.